welcome to another installment of Metalhead Central, the show where I take an honest look at the harder side of music and give it an honest rating. Today, we venture into the territory of the musically progressive, experimental, and just plain weird. Yep, it's Devin Townsend's new solo effort, Empath, which dropped on Inside Out Music March 29th. This is his first solo effort since 2007's Ziltoid the Omniscient. Now, as far as the label Inside Out Music is concerned, I have heard snippets of music from them, but I haven't had much experience with it. So for me, this is the first full album I've heard on here, so I'm going to reserve judgment on how I feel about this label. After the Devin Townsend Project's last album, Transcendence, made a ton of end-of-the-year best-of lists back in 2016, including my own, it was a brilliant album. I've been anticipating Empath with great gusto, but also a tad bit of apprehension. Why? Well, because you never know what you're going to find when you put in a Devin Townsend CD. It will either be ethereally beautiful and bombastically enormous, or it will be weird and different, and I found that it just doesn't endear itself very well. However, this album carries elements of both sides. First, the beautiful and bombastically enormous side. This album has a ton of melody on it, like you would have found on the Devin Townsend Project albums Epic and Transcendence. The guitar work and drum work here is both standard for a prog metal album and completely different. I mean, heck, there are blast beats on here! Blast beats! That's just something that I've found is just so rare for this style of music. It's like Strapping Young Lad collided with the Devin Townsend Project with a little bit of Devin's Ocean Machine thrown in there for good measure. When Devin said that this album would be a mashup of different styles of music that he's played throughout his career, he wasn't kidding. But that mashup is done very coherently and rather well. Then there are the guests. There are a ton of them. From incredibly talented guest drummers like Morgan Ogren, who has played with Frank Zappa, and Samos Palicelli of tech metal band Decrepit Birth, to guest guitars from the legendary Steve Vai, and guest vocals from Chad Kroeger of Nickelback, yes, Chad Kroeger of Nickelback, and, because it just wouldn't be a Devin Townsend album without her, Anneke van Giersbergen. Everyone lends their own individual talents to the album, and it definitely shows. I have to praise the vocals on this album in particular. Devin has never sounded better. He sounds great on here. And the guest vocalists do their part to enhance the record. The use of choral groups is also very interesting, especially on the 20-minute plus album closer Singularity. Songs like Genesis, Evermore, and Spirits Will Collide all benefit from the addition of harmonies and subtle vocal changes that ramp up the album even more. Now we come to the downside. This is a long album. It's over an hour and 14 minutes long. And while I wouldn't mind that as much if the songs were memorable, they just can't match up to the sheer genius of the last 3 Devin Townsend Project albums. Now that doesn't mean that the songs are bad. It just means that they aren't on the same level. But I can accept this. This wasn't supposed to be Transcendence Part 2 or Epic Part 2. However, I would like to have heard more of the amazing beauty that albums like Epic and Transcendence had to offer. That's what made them so good. Empath begins on a wonderful flow, with the songs Castaway, Genesis, Spirits Will Collide, and Evermore getting the album off to a great start. Then it hits a bump. Or rather, 2 bumps. Sprite and Hear Me are definitely the weakest and most forgettable songs on this album. Devin veers sharply away from the beautiful soundscape he was creating through the first 4 songs and wanders into a forest of weird and experimental, and while these songs do have good moments, overall, they get tangled up in the vines of the monotonous. They just don't measure up to the wonderful music that the first 4 songs provided. Luckily, the album rebounds hard, and the final 4 songs, Why, Borderlands, Requiem, and Singularity, are solid songs to close out the album. Why is beautiful in its orchestration. Borderlands is a lot of fun for an 11-minute song, and Requiem has a gorgeous choral arrangement to it. Singularity is a musical study in and of itself. It goes everywhere, from the beautiful to the weird to the experimental, back to the beautiful. The first 10 minutes of the song were incredible. Then there were 5 or 6 minutes that were kinda shaky, followed by a beautiful 8 or 9 minute charge to the end. All in all, Empath is exactly what Devin Townsend said it would be. A mashup of everything that he has done from his days in Strapping Young Lad all the way to Transcendence. The combination of beauty and oddness works in a lot of ways, but it doesn't work in some other ways. I didn't adore this album, but I didn't hate it either. It left me feeling good, but it also left me wanting just a little bit more. If Sprite and Hear Me were removed from the album, it would be more complete. In light of that, I hereby bestow upon Empath by Devin Townsend an 85 out of 100 on the YPS scale. Thanks so much for watching. Click like and subscribe for more Metalhead Central content. I am completely ecstatic for next week because we finally get to examine Elvete's new album Ategnatos. This is an album that I have been waiting for ever since it was announced earlier this year. All 3 singles from it, Rebirth, the title track, and Amberdamus, have been absolutely outstanding, and I can't wait to hear the full thing. Again, you've been watching Metalhead Central, where I give honest ratings to honest music, and I'll see y'all next time.